Nordic Tales and American Trails is an outdoor and hunting podcast focusing on tales and trails from Northern Europe and the USA, hosted by Erik Rohdin from Sweden and Adam Wu from Louisiana. The podcast covers all aspects of the outdoors, with a special emphasis of hunting with dogs. We will explore the unique tales and trails of our region, the various dog breeds used in hunting, and the differences in hunting practices between the USA and Northern Europe. So, hello and welcome to this episode of Nordic Tales and American Trails. I'm today joined by a dear friend of me that's been here in Sweden now for close to a week. And today we're going to talk about his trip here in Sweden and what he thinks about it. So, welcome, Darren Petty.
Thank you, Erik. What a great and fantastic time I've had with you the last few days. It's been wonderful.
I'm very happy to hear that. So, we're going to start from the beginning. So, Darren Petty is a professional dog trainer, and we connected a few years ago now. And a few months ago, he reached out, see if we can make a Swedish trip for him happen. And this is the result of it. So, I picked you up a week ago from now on the international airport in Stockholm, Sweden. So let's go through your week, man. How have you been?
Everything's been wonderful. I found the people to be very nice to me. I really enjoyed watching other people in another country work their hunting dogs, and just I always enjoy different culture wherever I go, just because of all the years I had in the military. I'm used to that. So all that experience of being in another country is always a lot of fun for me.
I'm happy to hear that. So we actually went to Stockholm, from Stockholm to the western part of Dalarna County here in Sweden. And we met up with two lovely people, Erik and Irina, that apparently you talked to for several years.
Yes, I talked to Erik Erik Krogstad, when I first got into West Siberian Laikas on a group years ago, before we had Facebook and all that. And it was about questions I had about the breed when I first got into West Siberian Laikas. You're trying to learn about a breed that hunts differently than any type of dog that I had ever owned. And so I had a lot of questions, and he was always very, very good about answering those questions.
Yeah, so we went to Erik and Irina's cabin, and they had, what was it? One East Siberian Laika, two West Siberian Laikas, and two Norrbotten Spitz.
Yes. And for somebody like me that has watched over the years the videos, unfortunately, the great Ice, who I have watched for many years, he just passed away yesterday at 15. I was pleased that I got to meet this wonderful West Siberian Laika. You can go on and find videos on YouTube of Ice, Bang, Moose hunting different things over the years, and his pups and grand pups are excellent, and you have one of his grand pups, and she is a very, very nice West Siberian Laika female that I might slip in my suitcase before I leave.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do my very best to make sure she's still in my dog kennel when you leave today. But yeah, as Darren said, I actually have the grand pup of Ice, which is my now 9-month-old West Siberian Laika that I call Sarah. And we've seen her work this week, and I am more than impressed. And Erik and Irina was very impressed as well. So that's definitely fun to see, and I'm looking forward to hunting her more. But let's get into the thickets of what we actually did with their Norrbotten Spitz, Darren.
Yeah. So over here, and I've studied a lot of the different type of hunting over here for a long time, and to go watch Norrbotten Spitz hunt capercaillie and black grouse was very, very fascinating. I would probably say, if I had to compare for an American that's never hunted a dog that's treed birds, it's similar to squirrels to a point, as far as like the dog searching and the dog's treeing a bird. It's the stalking part of sneaking up on that bird in the tree that takes the most time, because they are very watchful and wary. And if they see movement, they fly off. And then the dog has to try to relocate the bird if possible. The amount of bark, if you're American, you know I'm talking about how many barks per minute a Norrbotten Spitz has compared to a West Siberian Laika is a lot more. And I would probably, if you took one of those to a treeing contest in the U.S., we have treeing contests where we put raccoon or something in the tree, and they count how many barks per minute. They would do very well, because they bark about like a really a cur that puts a lot of barks down per minute. And they are just really wonderful little dogs that cover, especially his Frost. That dog covers a lot of ground, but not 900 to 1,000 yards away. He's 250 to 500 yards, working big circles. I'd probably say half circles in the direction in front of you. And as you saw, I mean, we were eating lunch, and he never stopped hunting. And I want to say he did over 45 miles in 2 days of hunting.
Yeah, so he did 30 plus 34 kilometers. So yeah, he was that was so that was the first day. We woke up in the morning, had some amazing breakfast and some coffee with Erik and Irina, and then you, me, and Erik basically went up into the mountains, not mountains, but like the hillsides of western part of Sweden. And we get 80 yards away from the road before he jumped the first black grouse.
Yes.
And I mean, since that first, what do you say, like walk away from the road, that dog never quit hunting. We got back
Never.
to the car. We got back to the car, and he looked at us. We're like, "Well, I'm not sure I'm done." And what was that? 6-7 hours.
Yes.
From
6 or 7 hours later.
Yeah, and
as we walked up to the car, he made a few barks, and it was a hazel grouse, and it flew past us. And when I asked about that hazel grouse, and Erik Krogstad, he explained to me they don't stay treed, and you guys use like a whistle and almost call them like ducks.
Yeah, exactly. So you would hunt that more like a duck, calling it in, than with dogs normally. But yeah, that frost dog, Norrbotten Spitz, less than 2 years old. The amount of grit and passion to hunt for that dog was amazing to see. And so we had a few black grouse encounters early on, and then we actually found a big capercaillie male, and I decided to stay back at 150 yards. So tell me a bit about like you and Erik Krogstad trying to sneak in on that. We didn't know it at the time, but a really old, big male capercaillie.
Oh my gosh. So we were slipping in on that capercaillie, and it must have spotted us, and it flew, but you can't really realize how large and beautiful a male capercaillie is. Yeah, if you've never looked them up, I recommend you look at them. They're about the size of a small turkey in the U.S., but their coloring is stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a very, very nice, cool looking bird. And I was kind of hoping we'd get one so I could ship one back and have it mounted, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, we had so the first day what do we think? We had 6 to 8 capercaillie encounters and similar amount of encounters with black grouse. But so here in Sweden now, we are currently in leaf fall, and the most tricky part when it comes to bird hunting capercaillie and black grouse here is between leaf fall and snowfall. So earlier in the seasons, when the leaves are more thicker, then they feel a lot more safe in the trees, because the goal here for when we're hunting the Norrbotten Spitz and Laikas, that's that they will most of the time jump the bird on the ground, and then it's gonna fly up into the tree, and then that dog is gonna locate it in the tree and then bay at that tree, or tree that tree where the bird is. And then as a hunter, you need to try to sneak in. Obviously, almost all birds we had, they were like hugging that base of the tree. They were not really sitting up high, so it was really, really hard to spot them before they actually spotted us.
Yes. Little side note that I found very fascinating. The gun that Erik was using, it had 3 barrels, right? So he had one barrel that I don't know how you do it, but you put it in the shotgun barrel and he had it made into like a 22 Magnum. He had a 16 gauge, and underneath, what caliber was that on the underneath side of that?
The underneath bullet would have been a 757. I think the caliber is named.
757. I will tell you that is an extremely heavy gun.
Yeah, that gun is not for the weak-minded people to carry on for a full day of hunting.
It had a scope, but I did not ask him if it was the scope was set for the 22 Magnum or the other rifle chamber below, but it did have a scope set on it.
Yeah, so he actually managed to get a scope set up for all. So the scope, I'm not sure I don't think you looked through it.
I didn't look through it.
So the scope had like a big red circle, which would be for the shotgun, and then it had 2 different marks. So one for the small caliber and one for the big caliber, and it was, I think, 1 to 6 magnification scope. So I think that scope that scope was probably 3 or 4 times as much value as the gun itself.
It was. I didn't look through the scope of it. I wish I would have, because I didn't realize that. I was kind of wondering how he was able to, I thought maybe I had used over and under shotguns in the U.S. that had a 22 on top and 20 gauge underneath, and I would set the 22 out of the scope to shoot on the top, and then I would just adjust for the shotgun on my own, figuring about where the shotgun would shoot. So it was, I just didn't look through the scope there. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so that was a very cool scope, actually. So yeah, that was the first day of hunting, and then obviously, what did we have to do after we were done hunting, man?
We always had the sauna. That's a big thing here, and for people that didn't know, I was a longtime wrestler. So sitting in a sauna is nothing new for me, but it was, when you hunt all day, you go sit in the sauna. It is very relaxing, and we did that every day, and so it does help with being sore, especially if you're, Erik and I are in our mid 50s. So you walk all day, and I can't even tell you how far we walked. It was, we put a lot of miles in, I know, but, you took a sauna that night, sat around, talked while you're in the sauna. Maybe Erik and I had a few adult beverages while we were in the sauna, but yeah, it was awesome. Great time.
Yeah, it was definitely a great time, and even so, obviously for me, it was the first time meeting both Erik Krogstad and Irina, and they've been working with Laikas for longer than I've been alive. So I was the young guy in the group, obviously, just a bit over 30 here. So it was amazing to hear how they worked with the breeds, how many dogs they picked up in Russia when it came to both East Siberian and West Siberian Laikas, and what they've struggled with and what they think is the future of the breed, and how because it's amazing, even in a smaller breed like Laikas, both here and obviously in America, you're going to have different ideas of how it should work. Like if you want to focus on the big game here with the moose or wild boar, or if you would, like Erik and Irina, want to hunt a bit more small game with black grouse and capercaillie and those things that we have here. So yeah, it was I almost valued that sauna time more than the hunting. Almost like it was just amazing time sitting down with amazing people and talking dogs. And so the first night, Irina prepared Swedish meatballs with potatoes and some cream, with cantaloups and all that. Like the quality of food we had during this week, Darren, that was something that was really
it's
fun.
great. With Irina, if you ever had in your mind, like traveling around, she reminded me of exactly what a grandmother would be, and what I always imagined a Russian grandmother would be. Kind of like our American grandmothers, always making sure, oh, did you get enough to eat, and always had dinner ready or whatever. And not that she doesn't hunt, because she's a very hard hunter herself, and extremely knowledgeable. She is a judge of Laikas herself and Norrbotten Spitz, and that's different for us. For a lot of you that don't understand, they have judges that judge the hunt. It would be like our old HTX UKC hunts where they judge the dog and on what they do, and so it's very adept, and the amount of they have to have something treed or bait is much longer than what you would imagine. So I would say at least I think what was it? They have to bark for 40 minutes on a grouse, or is it less? I can't.
No, I think for black grouse and capercaillie it was 10 minutes in the first. So when they finds it, and then
10 minutes. Yeah, I was getting that and the moose mixed up.
Yeah. So for black grouse and capercaillie, I'm not a test expert when it comes to bird either. So I would think it's 10 minutes, and then the bird, you're gonna make the bird fly away, and then you're gonna judge how the dogs can relocate the bird, and then you want it to keep baying on the bird when it lands in the next tree for like the maximum points. But as you said, the moose trials here, so for first diploma on moose, the dog, so it can be a Laika or a Swedish moose dog or Norwegian grey moose dogs. We're gonna get into that a little bit, but let's do the test here. So that would be 90 minutes of baying. Then you, as a judge, with the dog owner, is gonna push the moose. Hopefully, it just runs away 500 or 800 yards or something like that, and then the dogs need to rebait for 30 minutes. And then you're gonna do a second push, and then the dogs needs to rebait for 30 minutes again. And then you're gonna push it really hard, so it hopefully takes off a few miles running, and then hopefully the dog will stop chasing and come back to the owner and the judge, and that would be a first diploma for moose. So yeah, we have it definitely set up here, and we also have, so for the moose trials, any dog that wanna participate in a moose trial has to be on a dog show to at least have like a passing grade for the breed standards. And that's our way to make sure our hunting lines also do look correct when it comes to the breed standard, and on the way around. Like, you can't be a show champion here with your dog without it having successful diplomas on either moose, wild boar, or something like, or brown bears on the moose dogs. So that's something that's very different here.
Yeah. So just so you guys that have never really looked at papers from another country, if you're looking at diplomas, they need at least a 3 to pass. So diploma number 3 is passing, then the second diploma, and then the first diploma. So what I typically did over the years, if I was looking at dogs from other countries, is I was always trying to look and see that the dog had some sort of treeing diploma. Something that I really picked up that I didn't realize is there are a lot of those East Siberian Laikas that tree. I did not realize how many of those treed when we hunted later on with them on moose. They treed black grouse or capercaillie while we were out hunting. They would just go on. It's kind of like if my dog treed. I don't like my dogs to treat possums in the United States myself. Some of you guys don't care. I just tell my dogs leave it and walk on, or after a while they quit. They might bark 2 barks and leave. That's kind of what the dogs that they were hunting. But East Siberian Laikas will tree more than I realized, and they were, and they're big. They're the largest of the Laikas, unless I'm incorrect, Erik.
No, they're the East Siberian is the largest one. So yes, before we get all the way up north here, so on the second day of hunting we went with Frost dad, actually, that Irina and Erik also has. But so on the afternoon of the first day, I took my West Siberian Laika Sarah out with Irina. They owned the grandfather to my puppy Sarah, so she obviously wanted to see how she did in the woods, and we went for 1.5, 2 hours, a bit of a shorter trip than what we did in the earlier morning. And you and Erik stayed back to get some well-deserved rest. But yeah, Sarah really, really performed. I'm not gonna dive into much with her because I think this episode is going to be focused on your time here. But like, I was really impressed with my young Sarah here. So that was amazing to see the amount of drive she has, and you saw it as well. Like,
very much.
Yeah.
Oh, that late the next day I went with her and she made several trees and she barked very well on grouse. I don't remember if it was capercaillie or grouse, but she made trees and barked very well and had the bird because we'd see it fly off as you were approaching a couple times. But yes, great drive, great hunting instinct. And like you said, the second day we get up and we went with Frost's dad, Storm, and he hunted a little differently. He was much more. He wasn't like on a dead run the whole time. I think sometimes with age comes wisdom. He kind of moved along and would like hunt in front of you well, but at a little slower speed, taking his time to pick through the areas like an older dog would. Like he was not on a dead run the whole time. When it was time to, and he made several trees. We got into grouse or capercaillie at the end. I can't remember which one. We got into a bunch of them, and he made some really nice trees. And it's not all a mistake that a lot of you guys might think is the dog is just using its eyes to see them. No, a couple times both dogs, might have treated the grouse and like it might have flown out and they hadn't seen it, and it might take them. They're barking and looking, and then realize that as they're searching. And I've seen this, and I talked to both of you about this. Is that I have seen my Laikas bark a few times and look to see if they smell that the squirrel is close, just like your dog smell that there was maybe possibly a grouse or capercaillie somewhere in close to them, and they'll bark a few times and they'll watch. I have seen my Laikas do that several times over the years, looking to see if that squirrel will move. And I saw that in the Norrbotten Spitz, and that is something that Erik, when he and I were talking, he was like, he didn't realize that as much as that our dogs do that too on squirrels. And I said, oh yeah, my Laikas do that. They'll bark a few times and they'll watch to see if they can get that to pinpoint where that squirrel is. And that's often a mistake over the years that many Americans have said about the Spitz and Laikas is they just use their eyes, and that is such a false statement, because those trees are pretty thick, and there is no way that dog actually all the time sees that bird. It knows by the how strong the scent is as the dog gets older, just like our squirrel dogs. They know that squirrel's there. Maybe it just is a movement, a scratch on the tree or whatever else, the ear part. But, like the bird had flown out and they barked and watched, and then realized, that bird's already gone. Maybe the scent got a little less. And then they went on and tried to find where the bird went.
Yeah, especially that was amazing to see. And Erik called that like contact bark. Like, they might know that, okay, there's a bird somewhere in these trees above me, and then they barked a few times trying to get that bird to make a noise or move a little bit, so they could pinpoint exactly what tree they were in, and then to pin that tree down for us to know what tree to actually look in. That was so amazing to see. So yeah, we had two amazing days hunting black grouse and capercaillie, and then we actually went the third day. We started driving up north. So if you follow Darren on Facebook or me on Facebook, like, we were jamming some country music, driving along the Swedish country roads for a good 7 hours, and just talking dogs, talking life, and everything there in between.
And that was really, like, our country has a history that's definitely not as old as their history. And you and I were driving along, and he's like, we'll get off here. We had to go to the bathroom, maybe eat some lunch or something. And we pull off on, there's a little sign here. Well, it was a, what do you call that? A rock mill. It's like our sawmills. It was worked by water, but it was like to cut stone. And it was like from the 1600s.
Yep. And that was just me seeing one of those So when you drive in Sweden, you will have white signs that's like, and then there's a culture sign, means like something down this road is gonna be an old history site. And I had no idea that was there, and we just stopped for lunch and some breakfast or for some beer break. And I mean that rock sawmill was amazing to see.
Oh, that was so cool. And wasn't it like in the 1600s?
Yeah, I think it was from 1600s. They first started
Yeah.
cutting rocks there. So
That was pretty neat. And whatever pictures I didn't put up, I'll have a photo dump in the next when I get back to the U.S. and I'll put a lot of the different stuff up that about all of it, and I'll try to make sure that's on not only my own Facebook page, but on all of the groups that I belong to that are dogs.
yeah, definitely, and we're gonna have to get some of those in the podcast groups as well. So yes, and then
go ahead.
So then we had lunch there, and we kept driving up north. We got to our goal location up in Jämtland County. We checked into a very big Airbnb, and we were fully by ourselves. The owner wasn't even there, so we just got a code to the door, and we set our stuff up, and then we went for dinner with our lovely hosts up there, Urban and Birgitta, and for the night and the following day, we also had Michael, who is the Swedish Like a Club chairman, joining us. So we got there and we had, what did we have the first? We had the Swedish tacos on this Friday.
Yes.
For dinner.
No different than ours, guys. It was, it was funny because you guys have said, you want some bread? That's, Mexican tortillas, the soft tortillas, but you guys refer to it as bread, and they said and that being it from the culture that's closest to Mexico, where those are tortillas, or they make those from scratch. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I would say the only difference was that the meat we had was moose.
Yeah. It was moose. It was delicious. And sat and talked dogs, and got to meet Michael's wife, and then he travels to the U.S. a lot, once a month. So, and he actually lands in Indianapolis, and I gave him my phone number and my business card and said, hey, when you come in, please let me know. Or if you're within a 3-hour drive, you let me know and I'll come and visit, because I really enjoyed when we got up. That's who and you did a great job about this, is you and I sat and talked the whole time. You always sent me with another hunter to go with them on the hunt. And if it's okay with you, I'll kind of go through that different style of hunting, if that's all right with you.
Go.
So, guys, when when you guys think they have one dog they hunt with, and the dog handler handles that dog. But it was really fascinating. You have somebody in charge of the hunt. So you get there in the morning, and they had a whiteboard, and they put down, you're going to be in this stand. And there was a big map, and they would write that on the whiteboard, and they would point to the different areas of the map. So you got your guys that are your men and women that are at a stand. And then the dog handler is different areas, but there are different dog handlers. So you as a dog handler have one dog, and you and that dog are walking through the area, and the dog is looking for moose the whole time. And both days I went with either one of those gentlemen. They both had East Siberian Laikas, and they hunt about anywhere from 200 to 500 yards, and make wide circles around, and hunt about like I would like a dog to hunt. And so that was interesting to me, that it's kind of like our, the hunt master, and they all figure it out. And then you have to understand, in this country, they don't have the kind of like public land. So forestries own a ton of land here, because forestry is a huge industry. Matter of fact, you work for Forestry Service, and you actually have what they call hunt teams. And so each team has an amount of property, and they have to pay a fee in order to be in there. And so when you want to be part of a team, you have to like check with the people, and they have to let you in. They have to vote you in. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So it would be like I think it's a bit similar to I think you have some like black bear groups that rents private land that you can apply to or be a part of. So it's the same thing here. You're part of the group or the team, and then you lease a set amount of property from often a forest company.
That was interesting. How you go in there and then you take your dog and you're going through. Now it's different from, I would say, a German drive hunt where they're being loud and moving the game. Based on what I understand, if you're German and I'm wrong, please, right, put that out. The dog handlers walk through to push the game a little more, whereas if you are a dog handler and your dog is baying, you have the first opportunity to be able to slip in and shoot the moose. If it's baying the moose, you get the first opportunity. And a lot of times, sometimes the moose will try to sneak out and get ahead or run ahead of the dog, and then one of the shooters will shoot the moose. And the Swedish elk hound style, Swedish greys, or
Jämthund.
yeah. I can't say that very well. There's the Swedish elk moose hounds. They are, I would classify them like our competition curs or competition hounds. It'd be more like the competition cur. Like they don't bark on the track, but they are very wide ranging. And they, a lot of times if you go to a hunt, and if you go to an American hunt and you turn your competition dog loose, a lot of guys want to see gravel flying when they take off. Well, that's kind of like those dogs, man. They get gone. And then some of us that are more of a pleasure hunter, we don't want that dog to hunt that far. And those dogs hunt more like, I would say, our competition dogs, and they might, and the complaint would be the same thing that somebody like me would say is they pass 10 moose and before they bay a moose. That's some of the other guys would say, but they cover a lot of ground. Both days, like the second day, one of the gentlemen's dog, his Swedish moose hound, bayed the moose, and it ran a little bit, and he bayed it again, and the gentleman made the shot and killed the moose. The first day, Ruban, his dog actually.
Yeah, you went with Michael before lunch on the first day, and
then after lunch I went
with Urban. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the morning hunt we didn't get anything. I don't think anybody killed a moose then.
No, the only thing is one of the Swedish Jämthund found a moose close to where I was at the stand, actually. But that went 3 or 4 miles outside of the property, and then another team actually shot that moose.
Yeah, then another team of hunters that pay for their property, they actually shot the moose that the guy in that team dog actually ran and bayed. And then in the afternoon, when I went with the East Siberian, like another East Siberian, like with Urban, his dog bayed the moose and then pushed, and then it was baying the moose, and the moose will run. Sometimes they don't stay to be bayed, and it went past one of the. It was trying to sneak past one of the shooters. Shot the moose. We kind of worked our way over it, but when they shot that moose, the other two dogs ran and bayed another moose, and something happened, and then the moose kind of got away from those two for whatever reason. But that one moose slip away, and then the two dogs bayed a moose, and that's not normal if I understood them correctly on that.
No, it's not. So here we try to do our very best compared to some of the more styles in America. Like, we never want a dog to chase another dog's bark. Like, that's a big no-no, because legally we can never have more than 2 dogs on a game. Only exception there would be for wolves, but that's a different topic. But like, so you never want your moose dog, it doesn't care if it's a Laika or if it's a Swedish moose dog or a Norwegian Grey. You never want them to chase another dog's game, actually. So what they think they happen, like, you know how it is with hunting, like, stuff happens. We got the moose the first day, which was very nice, shot by a very nice lady, a good shot placement and all that. So no problem to find the game afterwards. But like what they think happened is that one of the dogs had a moose that was heading north, and then Fluke, the East Siberian you and Urban was out with, came with a moose that went, what would that be, like east? So those two mooses actually crossed path. So the moose that Fluke was hunting kept going and got shot by the shooter, and then Fluke, for some reason, changed and followed the second moose, and then, as our dogs normally aren't used to other dogs coming to their moose, something happened there. So both dogs sadly lost the second moose that day, but no dog fights or anything like that. Something just happened, so the moose got away from the dogs, and then none of the dogs actually appeared at the dead moose. So we got there, and I actually got the chance to take out my young West Siberian Laika and take her up there, and she tracked that moose for 100 meters, so 100 yards on a leash to find the dead moose. Like we knew it was down, so I just wanted to expose her to the moose, and she did really well there. I think it was fun to see. So. Now I'm gonna have to tell you. So we used an iron horse. We don't think
that was awesome.
we don't think that's actually a correct English term, but that would be the rough translation of it. And so tell us how we get our mooses out from the woods here, man.
So it is an iron horse as a tracked hand-pulled cart is what it basically is. And it of course has a motor and all that. You know, I look out and this moose actually got killed in a clear cut. And if any of you been around the clear cuts, you know how rough and harsh that is to move through. And they took that thing, I don't even know how far. It was a good long ways, at least 500, 600 yards, I think. And it went over everything. And then it has a winch on it. And then you hook it on the winch, it pulls it up on the little trailer. And then you just pull it back. And when they got that and that pulled it back to the truck, they put it on the trailer, and then boom, you're back. And man, they get, they're all working together, and they have a whole setup. And I took videos of that I have posted of them. They get to work on that moose, and it isn't really long before they have that thing, skinned, and then they cut it in half. And at that point, they cut it in half to age. They have it all set up in their hunt camp there. They had a huge barn where they're aging it. And then they had coolers. And then I have an explanation of what their hunting camp was like. And I have videos of that, so you can go through and see how that one was. And you said that was a really nice hunting camp area.
Yeah, it was a very good setup. So yeah, here we would age most moose, or well, all moose basically. So you would age it. We're not gonna get into that because that's the science itself, but you would age it for at least a few days. And if it's a very clear shot, or like a good clean shot through both lungs, so you have nothing bad on the meat or what you want to say, and then
like if you had a where you hit it in the stomach or something like that, where it's going to have more of that the stomach contents, so you probably have to age that more. I would imagine.
So if you have stomach contents, you age it actually less. So
less, really? Okay.
To make sure the bacteria doesn't really have time to develop anything. So yeah, so that's the first day of moose hunting up north. So we actually got a good moose cow and did something that you and me and with Urban and Michael that we talked a fair bit about is that. So here we actually hunt both bulls, we hunt cows, and we hunt calves. And we get yearly quotas as we debated this a lot. So as a downside for the moose population, and as a hunter, it depends on how you view it. But our landowners, which would be big lumber companies, they're all actually in some way or form in charge of how many moose we can take. Don't correct me wrong. We can't shoot how much you want, but they have a big say in how much we should shoot. And that's because they want to reduce the amount of forest damage. Like obviously a moose can do a lot of damage, especially to young pine forest and all that. So that's something that you take into account. Like so you get the yearly quote and you want to try to be as close to that as possible. So the property we hunted was 12,000 acres, and their goal for this season was 18 moose. And once we left, they were up to 16, if I don't remember wrong, right?
Yeah, that was correct. And when he's talking about that, that particular one had more calf that needed to be killed than, I think it was like 60%, and 60 and then 25-25, I think. I mean, 60 in 2020.
Yeah, I think it was. They wanted to shoot more calves this season to try to reduce the population a little bit in that area. So that it's different from state to state. It's even different from county to county here how the moose populations are doing, and we do a lot of we collect poop and all that and try to like judge how big our moose populations are and all that. So yeah, first day was successful, and then we had did we have lasagna with moose meat for dinner? That was also very
nice. We had
nice.
lasagna that evening with Rohdin and his wife. And then we talked dogs. We're just like when Michael and I were hunting, you're not loud and you're whispering as you walk, but I got to pick his brain about his thoughts on where he thought how they hunt differently, how they hunt the same, what they're looking for in their dogs. And even his East Siberian Leica made a few trees, and he's listening, and I've seen this in my own Leicas over the years. If my Leicas are treeing a squirrel, they're not treeing as hard. Same thing with his Leica was treeing a grouse or a capercaillie, I don't know which, but he was listening for that deeper, stronger, more aggressive bark. Then he knows it's a moose. And that is like, I can see the difference when my dogs are treeing a squirrel to a raccoon. I can tell by the bark. And then, when I went with Alex to hunt bears, the dogs bark even more aggressively. It's even more aggressive bark than when my dogs bark on the American raccoon. And I could pick that up pretty quick. And if I remember right, his dog did actually, he thinks, bait a moose for a little bit, and then it like took off and we didn't get it, or it didn't go past a shooter or something.
Yeah, and that's a big difference for us. So both me, Michael, and Urban hunt Laikas for that way of hunting. Like, so if the moose just takes off and running a few miles, we want our dogs to actually stop chasing it and come back. The big difference with like a Swedish moose dog or Jämthund or a Norwegian Grey is once they actually find that moose, they will follow that moose for miles, even if it starts running. So that's the different style of dog here. So obviously some people want that dog, once you find the moose, never to stop chasing it. While for me, Urban and Michael and a lot of other people that use Laikas here for moose, like we want that dog to stay and hunt with us rather than just go through the next county over.
Right, and that's, and myself, that would be more preferable, because all of a sudden, like somebody else is shooting your moose, like happened in the morning. I mean, that went over to the neighboring property and another team shot the moose. So your dog, didn't really help you out much, I mean, but that was a little bit of, like that's a preference for each hunter. And then, when we went back to Urban's house, and again, I hope that they enjoyed hearing about how we hunt. And more about that because, over our time, you and Adam talked, and you guys have this podcast, and you pay attention to that. Probably the older hunters don't pay as much attention to that stuff as you do. So they had questions about that, and about, because to them, they're like squirrels, and then when they see pictures of our squirrels, because their squirrels are like our chipmunks, they're not very, I mean, you could eat one, but it'd be a snack. So that was one of the things that they could see, I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that they could see why we would use a dog for squirrels, where it's not like trash. It's something that you can eat. It'd be like bird hunting almost. You do not realize in America how much game we have compared to other countries. They have a good proportion. They have a good portion of game, but everyone's, whether Erik or Michael Urban, I mean, the amount of game we have is a lot more.
Yeah, for us, it's mind blowing how many games. So just to put in some reference, so Erik and Irina, who we visited the first 2 days when we were hunting black grouse and capercaillie, like their dogs are good on birds. Like they have bird diplomas and a lot. They're good bird dogs for the kind of birds they're hunting. And they, what was it now, 7 birds for the whole season, which would be, they've been there hunting actively for 4 weeks and they've gotten 7 birds, and that's good. They can be bird hunters here that hunt for a month and maybe have 3 or 4 birds in the bag, so to say. And it's the same with moose. So like, if you're a dog handler, you're happy if you can maybe get 1 or 2 mooses a year for your own dog that's paid up. Like that's a good season. Then obviously, if you hunt, you can have your super dogs, or I mean, you might have a work that allows you to hunt for 2 months, 3 months straight. Then obviously you're gonna shoot more. But like the amount of game we have is a lot less, especially in density. Like the home range, and me and Adam talked about this in an early episode, like the home range of our wild boar can be 30,000 acres, while in America you can have 3 or 4 groups of wild boar in just a few 100 acres of public land.
Right. And so I enjoyed that, being able to share how I hunt Laikas and the different styles, and talk about why we, traditionally why we hunt squirrels, and be able to explain that a little better. And hopefully that was helpful to them. Hopefully that helped them understand how we use Laikas.
That was, so then the second day of moose hunting, you went with Urban, and I hunted with Urban's Russian European Laika, that's a brother to mine.
Yes.
And then that day we got a moose from one of the Swedish moose dogs handlers, actually. The moose paid up and then did a big circle and then came back to the hunter, and he managed to take that. It was a really small bull, but what we would view as a good shooting bull. Or shooting moose.
That's a good, what we call a good eater.
Yeah, good eater.
That was a good eating. Yeah, good eater, and it was a really, and then we went out to let the dogs run a little bit that day, and let your dog run, and then you and I hunted the following day, and I wanted to see your dogs hunt, and they, your oldest female, gosh dang, she's 8 now. I don't even know how far she ran that. Pretty sure she had a moose because the distance she traveled, and it wouldn't stop, and eventually she came back. It was a long chase.
Yes. So we left Urban's place up north, and then we went south. We slept one night at a moose park. Sadly, so we're moose training park. But yeah, so then we went home to my place. We got here early morning or before lunch, and then we went out with my dogs. And as you said, like my Russian European, like an older female, she definitely had a moose going. She followed it for a few miles, tracking it, but I don't think she ever got it jumped. But yeah, as you saw, like I'm very happy with her drive and all that.
And we took out your West Siberian Laika that day, and she made some barks, and some grouse flew up, and we didn't make contact with them. So she did again. She's a very, very nice young dog.
Yeah, it's been an amazing trip to have you here, and I want to thank you for being a great guest.
Oh, it was a blast. It's my friends have said, a hunt of a lifetime. I'm thinking in my head, this isn't the last hunt.
No, you're always welcome back, man.
And that was what everybody invited me back. So that was very nice. You and every place we went, they're like, you need to come back. And Irina wanted me to hunt those. What do you guys call those Swedish black moose dogs?
Norwegian
that
black.
They hunt on leash.
Norwegian.
Yeah, they hunt those on leash, and they walk. And when the dog looks in that direction, you're supposed to be able to look between the ears. When you could tell they smell something, and the moose is supposed to be right in front of them.
Yeah.
So she invited me back she goes, I haven't seen that either, and you'll have to go to Norway and hunt with me there.
Yeah.
So that was nice. So
yeah, with my father-in-law showing up here, which is the designated driver for Darren to get back to the airport today, I hope this was a good listening for our podcast listeners, and I hope you had a great time, Darren.
oh, great time. Great time spending time with you and your family. And, you know, can't say enough about the hospitality and the way I was treated. And, you know, we got in a truck together and took off for hours. And it was like we'd known each other for our whole lives. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing, I think, with when you have something in common. So we have both hunt Laikas and all that. So it was natural flowing conversations and the hospitalities. And I hope we showed you that even though the outside view of Swedish people is that we're cold and not that open warming, but once you're actually through that, what do you like, the first layer of ice, or what do you want to say, like, then we're actually very friendly people over here.
Yeah, great people. Very enjoyable.
We're gonna have Darren come back here once he's settled down in some weeks here in USA, and that podcast is gonna be focusing on you being actually a professional dog trainer. Like, I've heard a lot of good stories from you, Darren, this week that we need to get on the air, so to say. So with that said, thank you for listening and see you next week, and thank you for joining me, Darren.
Thank you.